Hi everyone, this is Phil Roos, CEO of GrowthWorks. I'm with my colleague Desirée García-Torres, who's a consultant with our firm. She recently conducted a series of focus group sessions with millennials to try to check in on how they're managing and coping with the COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome, Desirée, and thanks for the work you did.
Yeah, hi Phil. Yeah, thank you for having me today. I'm excited to talk about our discussions with millennials because I feel like this is a very interesting cohort. You're starting with individuals that are 23 years old, they're beginning their careers, kind of fresh off of college, and trying to go up the ladder. And you're ending with those that are closer to 40 years old, which already have established careers and are in a totally different stage in life. And so getting their perspectives and hearing what they have to say about this topic was very interesting, and finding commonalities among them too.
What did you find in terms of kind of the headlines about their experience, particularly as it relates to things they're worried about, fearful of as they look into the future?
Yeah, certainly I would say that overall there were three main worries with this group. One of their main worries was other people in general. They were expressing that as they were going about their daily routines or doing their chores, grocery shopping, and things like that nature. They were seeing people not wearing masks, not practicing the social distancing rule, and they kind of interpreted that as them saying, we do not care about being sick, or, they didn't care about getting others sick. And so they kind of felt like, in general, people had this selfish mentality where if it's not affecting me, then, that's okay, and not worrying about the rest of the people. So I would say that was the main one. But a second worry, and I think it's a natural worry that it's common among different cohorts, is that, they were worried about the future in terms of their careers and, what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And, for those that were planning to start families or big events in their lives, the uncertainty of the future was a big worry. And then the third thing they mentioned was just the mental health of society in general. This is driven by this concern for the future, definitely. And in the beginning, it was driven by the isolation from quarantine, which is kind of dwindling down due to different areas of the nation kind of lifting restrictions. But certainly it was impacting them in the beginning a lot. And I would say that overall the division between generations and between people based on their beliefs, those that thought that this whole coronavirus situation was a hoax, those that took it very seriously, the political divide, and those that wanted to make safety measures, those that didn't care for it. I kind of draw a line between people and a lot of tension, and they were worried about how that would impact the overall mental health of society in general.
Yeah, I think a lot of those divisions have surfaced even more so. We've seen them in the past week with all the unrest in the country. And I know you mentioned that you had checked in with some of the folks that you had talked with earlier in the cycle, and just kind of curious if you heard anything from what's happened in the country in this past week and how that's changed their experience.
Yeah, certainly. I would say that the COVID concerns are still there, but they've definitely taken a backseat due to the whole situation that's happening now with the protests and this, kind of overall sentiment around the country with the situation. And so what I'm seeing is that those that initially were more strict on following safety measures, those that, kind of just stuck to being at home and kind of just trying to be as socially distanced as possible, are now loosening up. And, they're even considering going out to the streets and being very vocal about this whole situation. Some would say, I would wear a mask, I would wear gloves out there, but certainly you're starting to see this shift in people. And I would say the summertime also has kind of pushed for that. But with the whole current situation with the protest, people are just wanting to speak up. People are just wanting to just not stand, at home, do nothing. So I'm seeing people just trying overall, to be safe, yet at the same time be more active, be more proactive.
The people you talk to have any hopeful reflections on the future and what happens as we emerge from the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say that with the people that I talked to, they were cautiously hopeful. They mentioned about they hope people will embrace more hygienic measures from here on out and embrace them as their new normal. They also talked about hoping that people would be more open to science and scientific information and just not kind of block it from the get-go, but try to be more open-minded about it. They also talked about, with virtual work right now, that this would cause a change in the employer-employee dynamic, and that employers acknowledge that workers that can work from home are able to do so and still be productive, and kind of keep the work moving along. And then I would say overall, they're very hopeful that this whole situation will spark a new wave of innovation and creation that will better serve society in the future.
That's great. Did you learn anything about how buying behavior is changing? Are people buying this particular cohort group gravitating towards certain kinds of products or services that they weren't before? And does any of that look like it's permanent?
Yeah, I think what I saw when talking with people was there's this two groups within this cohort or this generation. Those are more conservative, more health inclined, and those are a little bit more risky or willing to go with the motions and see as other people are doing, they embrace that. Interestingly, they talked about food, and a lot of them mentioned that this whole situation, this uncertainty and chaos right now, it's kind of giving them, it's just making them uncomfortable. And so they're trying to get some sort of control through food. And, by making healthier choices, cooking at home, spending more on premium brands, organic, eating more expensive cuts of meat, they can gain that sense of control while also treating themselves. And then you have those that are snacking more, or eating more sweets due to anxiety, to try to cope with this whole situation. So I would say with food, that's like the two groups. With retail in general, some mentioned that they were open to going back to malls and, having that mall experience, even though it's in closed spaces, because they just miss it. They kind of saw the mall as an attraction for them, see different products, new products. And so some of them were just pretty open to that. But then you had another group that was very willing to keep using online as their go-to for shopping. And definitely they would like to see more improvement on that experience. But they're getting used to the convenience of things get shipped at home and you don't have to go out. And I think that has staying power in the future. And interestingly, talking with millennials, because they're known as traveling nomads, we talked about travel and how they felt about it. And there's a group that is willing to travel in the next month or two and, taking precautions. But a lot of them said, this is not going to stop me from traveling. I want to keep my life and do the things that I like. But then you had another group that didn't see themselves traveling in the foreseeable future. And, they said that they would even wait until next year to do any traveling plans or anything like that because they just didn't feel comfortable with the situation.
Huh. Well, super interesting insights, Desiree. Thank you so much. I think which of the things you're talking about end up having a permanent impact on the way this group acts and feels and how they live their lives. So thanks so much for the great work, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see what happens.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.